Good afternoon, everybody. Doug Nicholson here. I wanted to thank you all for setting aside time to join us. I can see on my camera that my head's cut off, but you're not missing anything. We're going to have Bill Rennie from Graco give us information on the use of these sprayers that we have, both models, the 20 and the 65. But I just wanted, before we started with the sprayers, talk to you about some stuff that's come out to you. Some of you will have received it, some of you not. And it has to do with the sanitizer, not the sprayer, so the actual solution that we're using. What I've sent out in a package is some variation of this this piece of chrome here, or this piece of brass. And what this thing does is it prevents water or whatever solution from going back into the plumbing system. So what we should have in every case, wherever we're attaching hoses to faucets, we should have a device like this that gets screwed onto the faucet, and then you attach the hose to it. So that, and the way it works is what the issue is, if you had this attached to anything, washing machine, a bucket, some sanitizer that we're going to be connecting directly to these hoses, if the water pressure in the building drops, if we didn't have this device here, the contents of the bucket or the sanitizer pail or whatever would get drawn back into the domestic water system. So go into the piping for the school, and when the water comes back on, it can come out anywhere. Now with this stuff that we're using right now, the sanitizer is, it's not a very dangerous product, but nonetheless, whenever we're using a hose to dispense something like this, be it sanitizer, perhaps a pesticide, any cleaning agents of any sort, we should make sure that this is installed on the faucet before the hose goes on. Some of them that you're going to get have a little bolt on the side, and the purpose for that bolt is to tighten it up till it breaks off actually, and then the piece is on there all the time. It will never come off. I'll leave it up to you to trust the the longevity of that thing. Eventually it's going to break and we'll have to replace it. But we bought pretty good ones, so please put them on your faucets where you're going to be drawing the sanitizer from. So that's the one bit that I had wanted to talk to you about first before getting Bill here. So I'd like to introduce Bill. I'll zoom the camera out a little bit so Bill's head's not cut off, but he's going to go through the process of the sprayers. I've killed all the mics basically for everybody except for the one here, so that we can hear more clearly. At the end, if there's going to be some questions, I can turn all the mics on and we can have some questions. But for the point of this demonstration, it's going to be just kind of one way. Bill's going to be talking. We're all going to be listening. Thanks very much. Bill?
All together here. Hey everybody, how you doing today? My name is Bill Rennie, and I'm just going to take this off. And I'm going to be here to talk to you about the Graco Sanisprayer line. Now, you're all going to be getting and being sent videos, which I think at this point Doug has asked you to watch a couple of times. And what we're going to be doing with that is, at least you'll have an understanding of what we're going to be talking about. But we're going to be doing quite an in-depth report on both of the sprayers, the HP20 cordless handheld and the HP65 hopper sprayer. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into the HP20 sprayer. And what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of the out-of-the-box experience, meaning I'm going to bring each part out and I'm going to have it here in front of me, and I'm going to be able to show you what it is, and we're going to lay it down, and then we're going to put it together. Okay? So on the HP20, the bag looks like this. Okay? It's a nice soft hawk bag. It's going to come in a white box, but this is the internal bag. So everything that I'm showing you is going to be coming out of this bag. Let's start with the accessories. The first thing that you're going to see coming out is that you're going to be getting 2 DeWalt batteries. Just one second. If I look straight forward, is it okay, or should I be looking over here? Camera's right there. Okay, so this is good for you. Okay, thank you. Just a little Hollywood moment there. So the unit comes with 2 DeWalt batteries. Okay, they're 20 amp batteries, and they've also got a fuel gauge on the front of them. So at the front of the battery, there's a little button you push, and you can see that this one has got a charge of 1, so it's time to go on the charger. And this one, as you'll see here when I do it, has a charge of 3. Okay, so that's what we call a fuel gauge, and we'll talk more about that as we get into it. So you get 2 batteries and the battery charger. It's a standard battery charger. One thing I want you to note is when you take the battery, you turn it over so it's black side up, and you just put it into the battery charger, and you have to push it down just a little bit so it goes snap. Okay? It just moves about 2 millimeters, but if you just take it and lay it in like that, it's not going to connect, and you just got to put it down. When the battery's charging, the red light is flashing. When the red light is solid, the battery is all set to go. Okay, so 2 batteries and a charger. You're also going to be getting a 14-inch spray wand, okay? And this is an extension that can be put onto the end of the rig, which I'll be bringing out shortly. And we'll talk a little bit more about this. This would allow you to get further away or have the machine further away from where you're actually shooting. We'll talk a little bit more about that when it comes time to put it on. You're also going to get a cup assembly, okay? And the cup assembly is you're going to get a frame, and you're going to get 5 liners. And these liners will just come stacked in each other like this. What you do is the liner, it just goes into the frame, and then you're also going to get a lid. Now on the top of the lid, there's going to be a little bit of Vaseline on there, okay? And I think Doug is already sending out some Vaseline to you. So you'll notice that the inside of the lid will have a little bit of Vaseline. Just have a look at that, and that's just to ensure a nice tight seal. You'll also get a black plug that looks like this. And this plug just fits into the top of the lid, and it's next quarter turn, eighth of a turn actually, and it locks in, and we'll show how that goes. So that's the cup assembly. It's made up of the frame, the liner, and the lid. Now you're also going to get the body of the unit. And the body of the unit is just going to come like this. And we're going to go over it in detail. It's going to come loaded with the tip guard on it right here with a 515 tip in it, which we'll talk about. So this is the unit. The sprayer, what makes it happen. You're also going to get 2 extra tips. So there's a fine, medium, and a coarse spray available, but know that the micron size that's available from all the spray tips is going to be well within that fogging range of like 5 microns to 15 microns, okay? But we have a coarse, medium, and spray, which is changed by the tips. You're also going to get a filter, okay? And the filter is a friction fit filter that fits into the intake, and we'll show how that goes in a second as well. And finally, you're going to get 2 extra black bleed valve caps, okay? And those are, if the other ones break or if something happens to them, you can replace them and have them on the go. Doug also has a good little reservoir of a few extra moving parts. If something happens or if something breaks, you'll be able to access that with him. Okay, so we're ready to talk about the HP20 and how it works. So what I'm going to be showing you today, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm just going to be talking about really why we're here, is that the HP20 airless handheld and the 65, they're both airless systems. And what we have to do when you're running any airless system is that you have to purge the air out of the reservoir, because it says airless. If there's air in the system, it cavitates and the pump can dry stroke because there's air going through it rather than material. So really the crux of the matter and what we're trying to do today is just show you how to prime the machines, okay? And, I'm going to use a little bit of an analogy, but we'll come back to it in a second. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to do, as I mentioned to Doug, like a cooking show. I'm going to put the whole process together so you can see what I'm doing. So this is what you want to do, and this is what we want to be able to do at the end of the session. I'm just going to do it, and then we're going to take it apart and drill it down what we did, okay? I'm coming to work. I'm going to take the frame, I'm going to put the liner into the frame. I'm going to take my pre-mixed disinfectant, and I'm going to fill it into the container. You may be using like a reservoir tube or off a calibrator off the wall or something like that. I'm going to fill it to the fill line. And the fill line is this little embossed line that's on the inside of the liner. It's there, you can feel it, you can see it. It's very, from 2 points of view, you can see it very easily. This thing, I'm going to take the lid, and I'm going to put the lid on. And I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to give it a little kiss to make sure it's tight. And then I'm going to take off this. I'm going to line up the prime spray valve with the bleed valve, and I'm going to turn it a quarter turn to myself. I'm then going to lift up the bleed valve, and I'm just going to, while it's sitting down like this, or I could be sitting down here like this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift it, just going to tilt it forward and over a little bit. And the little bit of air in there is really what this whole process is about. I'm then going to squeeze the liner, and I'm going to notice that the air bubble at the top is contracting. I can see it getting smaller, getting smaller, getting smaller. And then I keep squeezing, and the material starts to rise up this valve. While I'm still holding the bag, I just shut that down. I then turn it upside down to prime. I set the setting at around 5. Oh, first we better put a battery in. I'm going to turn it upside down to prime. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to put it forward to spray. And then I've got my spray. That's all we're doing today, guys, on the HP20. You see how easy that was? Now we're going to back it up, and we're going to drill it down in depth, and we're going to show you how to do that. All right, so I just wanted to show you that, when you're purging the air out of the container, it's a very smooth, easy process. You don't have to be tense doing it, but we're going to start off. Okay, let's go back to just getting the box. What we have to do is that we have to put it together and get it organized, because what I'm going to show you now is a one-time application when you get this pump. It's called seeding the pump or seasoning the wok. When you get a new wok, you got to put some stuff in it, you got to season it. What we have to do is we have to do a short process with this, and what I'm showing you now is only one time, okay? But before we do that, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. Before we do that, let's just talk about the pump and what it is. So after I introduce the pump to you and its components, I'm going to show you the one-time seating of the pump, and then we're going to go into regular operation. When you look at the rig, this is the tip housing, okay? It's blue, it's got a black housing on it. And when you first get it, I'd like you to, with any time you're having a pump or a fitting, I want to make sure everything's tight. So this is a hand-tight fitting here. So what I want to do is I just want to hold it like this, and then I just want to take my hand and I want to turn it to the left, and I want to snug it up to make sure it's tight. At that point, to make sure it's tight, the blue tip housing will rotate and just turn it in the direction that you tightened it. So this you can now turn this nozzle either up or down either way. That again, we take the machine out of the box, we're talking about the tip housing. It's already on. All I want you to do is to take your hand, and I want you to turn it and grab it just around this little housing here, hand tight. Just snug it up to make sure it's good. Then I want you to take the blue part, which rotates, and turn it to the left again a few times. The reason we do that, and once I've done this, if I go back and forth right away, it might come loose a little bit. And now this allows you to have a rotating tip guard that when I spray in one pattern, it's going to go this way. If I turn it this way, it's going to go up and down. Why we would do that? If I'm spraying horizontal push bars on doors and I want to go by and just go zing, 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 that's great. But if I've got pull bars which are vertical, I can turn it to vertical and I just have to go like this. What it's saving you, it's saving you having to put your arm out at an angle like this, basically, okay? This is the tip guard. In the tip guard is the tip. The tip guard has one opening in it. It's an opening and it's squared off at the top. As you can see where my finger is, it's squared off at the top. On the tip, there's two little bumps, here and here. Those are shoulders, like your shoulders. And the tip can only go into the housing one way. You just take it, put it in, and those two squared pieces, shoulders, fit into the squared notch. And it should go in and it should click a little bit, or sometimes they don't click after a while. Now the tip is freely moving. If you look at it this way, the tip should be in a forward position. You can see the tip has a point at this end and kind of like an end, like a feather, like on an arrow. The sharp point of the tip is always the way that the spray direction is going. So as you can see here, it's forward to spray. If the tip is just off a little bit and you pull the trigger, it's going to back up. You're going to have to push that forward. But we're going to go through the protocols on that. This is the tip guard. We go along the back of the rig, and there's a little nub back here. This little nub is the static discharger on the machine. It's the same type of static discharger that you're going to see on the wing of a plane, okay? So what this does is when you have a cordless machine and you're making pressure, it generates static. This is where the static is being dissipated off so you don't get a shock. We come along the back of the unit, there's going to be a dial right here. This dial goes from 2 to 10. We'll talk about that coming up. This is the throttle control. You'll be able to control how much spray comes out of it by this control, and we'll show how important that is a little bit later on. Yes?
Sorry, just to interject for a second, there's some people who are having trouble logging in. So we have people with cameras on that are watching. So if everybody can turn off their cameras so that we conserve the bandwidth for the presentation, please. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bill. Sorry about that.
Okay. So we were just here on the battery compartment, okay? We talked about, we came from the static discharger down the back of the handle to the speed control, the throttle control, the pressure control. And there's the battery compartment. The reason why we have an enclosed battery compartment is that lithium-ion batteries don't necessarily like disinfectant, okay? So that's why we encased it. And it's very simple. It'll loosen up, but it's going to be, kind of snappy. And you can see that there's an area here for the battery to go in. All you do is you have the tab with the battery here. You take it and you just slide it in and it clicks in, okay? And then you shut it and that battery is now loaded. We come underneath, okay? And here's the trigger. We turn it and look at it this way. There's 6 holes. There's 3 intakes and 3 outtakes. This is a 3-piston sprayer. And I might add what you're using here, guys. This is professional equipment. This is professional disinfecting equipment that is built off existing paint sprayer platforms, but everything in the machine is being completely replaced and redone. So this is not a paint sprayer. I just want to say that now. But we have 3 pistons, 1, 2, 3, and that's why we can do what we do with it, because we have all that force. And then we come up here to the prime spray valve, which is a very, very important valve. It's down to prime, forward to spray. Down to prime, forward to spray. That's also indicated by a little sticker that's right here. It shows you. So when you're priming, you're down, meaning it actually, when the arrow again is pointing down, it means you're recirculating this way. When the prime spray valve is forward, actually, remember, we're spraying forward, redirecting the flow of the material up through here, out the spray tip nozzle. Okay, so that's a little introduction to the machine. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about what we do when we get the box. What I'm going to show you now is we only do this one time, and this is called seating the pump, all right? I'm going to be doing a very simple chain of events, and it kind of gets you to a feel of the machine before you go into the priming mode. Again, what I'm showing you here is only done once when you crack the machine. I'd like you to charge the batteries before you go to 3. Make sure that there's 3 bars on it before you start anything. It's not good to start with a battery-powered device without full charges, so just do that. Also, I want to talk about a caveat now. One of the things that you have to be very much aware of. This machine looks like a cordless drill, let's be honest, okay? If there's a battery in it, as it is now, you see the battery in here now, I can pull that trigger and it'll fire. If you have a battery in the machine and the pump is just sitting down like this, and somebody comes into your office or somebody comes into your area and goes, hey, that's pretty cool, what's that all about? Picks it up and starts pulling the trigger, you can dry stroke the pump and blow the pump within 15, 20 seconds, 25 seconds, depending on what the pressure control is at. Okay, so this is just one thing about professional equipment, okay? So what I'd like you to do, and the workaround, the Bill Rennie workaround on this is that when the machine is not in use, or you could have it on a cart in a hallway, and you could be called away and it's sitting there. There is a way to disengage the battery from the machine and still control the battery. And what that is that you just lift the trap door, very easy, just press that, I'm not forcing it, just press that, it comes right out. Take the battery, put it underneath, shut the door. The battery's there, it's not going anywhere, but now if I pull this, nothing happens. All I'm asking you to do is when it's not in use, control where the battery is, okay? Because it's no inherent issue with the machine, but pumps just don't like to be run without fluid going through them, right? And that's really what we're talking about with an airless system. All right, let's get down to business. I'm only doing this one time, not presenting one time, we'll do it as many times as you want, but this is a one-time seating of the pump. What I do, it's a good thing that fit. I'm going to take the intake filter. You see right here, the little filter. It's a friction fit filter. I want you to take it and I want you to push it into the intake, okay? And you can do it, just take it, put your hand like this and just push it in. It's in tight, it's not going to hurt you, and it's in there. Okay, so now I know the filter's in there and I've got a guard against material going in there for the most part. I'm now going to take the line, sorry, almost got dug there. I'm going to take the liner and the frame, and I'm going to put the liner into the frame. It just drops in. I want you to take note of this area here, and I'll mention it a few more times. This is where the liner wears. You've got the original 5, you've also got some packs of 25 liners coming to you as well. The liners are not this, like they're disposable, but they don't really wear as far as what goes in them. Where they'll wear is upon this top of this lid here, okay? This edge. So a good rule of thumb is anytime you put a liner into a frame, just take your hand and run around there and make sure there's no nicks, it's all nice and smooth, because that's going to determine the seal that we get here. I'm now going to take water. Remember, this is the first time. I'm only doing this once. I'm going to take water and I'm going to fill it up to the fill line. Okay? Now, holding the frame, because if I squeeze the liner, it's going to get messy, okay? What I'm going to do is holding the frame, I'm going to take the lid and I'm going to put it on and I'm just going to tighten it down, okay? And I wanted you to go snug. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my thumb here and I'm pushing it against that frame so I can, I'm opposing my hands. I'm going like this to tighten. So I want it tight, and then I want to give it a little kiss again just to make sure it's sealed. At this point, I'm going to take the rig and I'm going to put the battery in. Take it, just put it in the back. Click it in, down. It's live, don't pull the trigger. I'm now going to take the machine, and you're just going to move these liners out of the way. I just want you to see how everything with the machine fits like a precision piece of equipment, like a camera, okay? There's no forcing. So I'm just loosely holding this, okay? It's got a nice balance point. I'm holding it, and I'm just going to drop it down. I'm taking the prime spray valve, and I'm lining it up with the black bleed valve, okay? Now this machine will, or this cup will go on many ways, but if I do it over here, you can see that the little lid is going to hit the piston, okay? And that's why we give you extra bleed valve caps. Sometimes you might be a little aggressive with the lids and you might rip one off or something, it all depends. But these are crucial because these part of the airtight seal. So what I want you to do is you just take the rig, put down the bleed valve, take the prime spray valve, orientate it with that, it just drops in, and then you just come a quarter turn, an eighth of a turn towards yourself. I now have a closed system. I'm going to do that again. I've taken the liner, put it in the frame. I've taken the water, because this is a first time application, and I filled it up to the fill line. I've then put on the lid, and I've tightened it snug, and then I've given it another little kiss just to make sure it's sealed. At that point, I'm going to make sure that my filter's on, and I'm going to take the rig and I'm going to look at the prime spray valve and the bleed valve, and I'm just going to make sure that they're on the same. I'm just going to take it and it just drops into place. Then all you do is you just hold the cup and turn it an eighth of a turn to yourself, and that's it. The cup is now fastened to the rig. For the first time application, I'm going to go to the pressure control and I'm going to turn it up to 10, okay? Max. This is the only time I really want you to have the sprayer on 10. I want you to be using it between 5 and 6 is really, or 4, 5, and 6 is kind of in where you want to be, okay? You can be lower, but you're going to get the best delivery, 4, 5, 6 right down the middle. You can have it on 10, but all it's going to do, it's going to prematurely wear the pump, okay? So this is the only time I want you to have it on 10. I've got my cup loaded, remember? Prime spray valve to bleed valve, down, eighth of a turn towards myself. Got the battery in. This one-time only startup, I've got the power on 10. I'm now going to pick up the rig. I'm going to turn it upside down. And the reason we're doing this is because that little bit of air that was at the bottom, I want to make sure it's at the top. And that's why we always invert when we prime, okay guys? Because we want to get rid of the air, and that's all this little system is about. So I just invert it. Prime spray valve is down. Pressure setting's at 10. And I hold it for about, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds. I also, you can see like it's got the battery and I'm balancing it on one hand. It weighs 14 pounds. I'm not a big husky guy. Can be in better shape, okay? But I'm saying it's got great balance points on it, so try to find that, okay? You don't have to muscle it. So I'm just holding it upside down, and then I'm going to pull the trigger for 15 to 20 seconds on 10. And while I'm doing that, I just want you to squeeze the bag a little bit. Not hard, but just squeeze it a little bit, because that'll pop open any check valves. I'm going to stop it there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it forward to spray. Take the prime spray valve. It's still upside down because the air is still here. I want to keep the air up. Turn the prime spray valve to spray. Pull the trigger. I'm in business. And that's it for the first step. What you'll also notice is that I'm not doing it exactly like they do it, but the video series that you have, and hopefully you've watched a couple of times, I'm emulating basically with my own take on that, in the field. Okay, so I'm pretty close to what they're doing. I'm going to go through this one more time quickly. Not quickly, but just deliberately. I've taken the cup, I put it in the frame. I filled it to the fill line. This is the first time, I'm only doing this once. I then put the lid on, I've tightened it up snug, and then I give it a little kiss to make sure it's firm. I've taken the pressure control and put it to 10. I put in the battery. I'm not pulling the trigger because there's nothing here. I'm then going to line up the prime spray valve in the prime position very easily and gently. As you can see, I'm using like 2 fingers here. It just drops in, and then 1/8 of a turn towards myself. I'm locked in. I'm then going to turn it upside down, okay? Turn it upside down. It's in prime, and I'm just going to pull the trigger for 15 to 20 seconds while I'm squeezing the bag a little. And then while it's still inverted for its first time, this is like what you're doing here is this is the genesis of this pump's life. And when you put it to spray for the first time, it's doing what it was made to do. Okay, we just that's all I do. We've now seasoned the pump. Okay. I'm just going to wipe up a little bit. Not that it's bad, but okay. That is the first out-of-the-box experience. Identifying the parts, talking about the sprayer, what it is, and we just did the one-time only seating of the pump. It's also a good time now, once you've done that, just go to the pressure control and turn it down to 5 or 6, okay? Or about 5, 5 is good. It's there, no, because next time you start it up, you would have forgotten that you've got it on 10, and you know, we don't really want to run it at 10. So when you're done the seating, put it to 5. You can take a felt marker too, and write on the side of this is another little hack that I had with some school divisions, is that they just write pressure max 5. Just write on the side of it, okay? It's up to you. It's a little bit of a notice if somebody else is not using it, you're using it. Okay. I'm now going to put this back in here. It's like we're doing a magic trick. I've now done the first one-time only seating, and now I'm ready to go disinfect my school. Make it safe for the kids. Make me feel safe, make me feel better about things. I'm now going to take the liner. I'm going to put it in the frame. I'm going to take my disinfectant, because remember we used water the first time, right? The seasoning part was water. Now we're going live with disinfectant. I take my disinfectant, and I fill it up to the fill line. And you can go a little bit more because this is a fairly stable frame, okay? Because the more water that you can put into the top of that fill line, the less air you got to purge out. And it's not a lot. But I'm about a little over the line, okay? And I'm feeling comfortable with that. I'm now going to take the lid, okay? I'm going to hold the frame because I can't hold the bag because it's going to spooge all over. I'm going to take the frame and I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm just going to tighten it up, snug. I'm holding the frame. It's snug, but remember that little trick I showed you by putting your thumb back there? So I'm turning it opposite. I'm snug, and then I just want to give it a little kiss to make sure it's firm. I look at my rig, I make sure my battery's in, I'm charged, ready to go. I'm going to make sure that I'm around 4.5, 5. Making sure my tip is pointing forward, okay? Because if it's cocked halfway like that, I pull the trigger, it's going to be like running into a brick wall. You know, the material's just going to be hitting that. So make sure that your tip is spraying forward. Also, with the initial startup, we made sure that we tighten that so I can rotate this left and right from here, okay, without the black nut moving. How I don't get the black nut to move is that when I first pull it out of the box, I give it that little hand tight. And then what I'm going to do is I pull it to the left, and then I'm going to take the tip guard and I'm just going to turn it to the left a few times because I've seated it then, right? Now it'll move freely back and forth without moving the lock nut. The reason we have that is for directional spray. If it's like this, I just like the tip on that side. Doesn't matter. If you're left-handed, you can have the tip on the other side. Doesn't matter. You're spraying this way. The pattern is up and down. If I turn it that way, when I go like this, you can go up and down like this. Okay. I'm going to put the prime spray valve to valve down. Little check. It's good to do like a little pit stop, okay? Tight, moving, tip forward. I'm going to be priming, so I might as well be in the prime valve down. Come along the back, make sure I'm at around 5. Come underneath, make sure my filter's in. I'm going to take my cup with disinfectant in it. Now at this point I want to talk about foam. I don't think you guys are going to have a lot of foam in your disinfectant because because you're mixing, what's your calibration, 48 to 1?
Something like that.
About 48 to 1. But that's why we ask you to mix the disinfectant ahead of time, because with sometimes with agitation and the detergent, that there is a little bit of detergent in disinfectant, it has a tendency to foam. Foam equals air, okay? So don't go in there and think you're doing the purge valve. If you see foam in the top, that's air. That's why we ask you to mix it, just let it settle down. But with that calibration rate, I don't think, you just may have a few little bubbles on the side, and that's it, you're going to be okay. It's the ones that are like 8 to 1 and 15 to 1 and 20 to 1 that are, got a higher concentration of material. Okay. Let's recap. I'm going to spray now because I've already done the seating of the pump, which was one time before. I'm going to do it again because I like to do a lot of repetition. Because I'm going to tell you guys, I'd love to be with every one of you, and I wish you were all here. We could all do hands-on, and it would be great, but that's not where we're at. But, I'm here as a resource. Doug is here as a resource. But I'm telling you, when you're alone with this in front of you, the more times I repeat it, the better. Remember the balance point. It's like a camera, okay? Don't grab onto it like, just be loose with it. Make sure the tip guard is on tight. You turn it to the left, okay? Make sure that when I turn this to the left or to the right, that it moves and it doesn't move the locking nut. Make sure the tip is forward to spray. Make sure that come along the back. It's always, if you follow the machine for the first few times, although just the first few times, do that checklist, come along the back. Make sure you're at 5 because you've already seated the pump at 10 and you moved it back. Make sure your battery's in there and it's charged. We're coming up, make sure your filter's on. And make sure you're in the prime mode because we're going to be priming now. And take the cup. I put the liner in the cup, I put it in the frame, I put the lid on, I snugged it, then I gave it a kiss. I'm now just going to drop the pump. Just right there like that. I'm going to pull an eighth of a turn towards myself. Okay, and I'm just going to sit up here like we're having a fireside chat, okay? Now I have to prime the pump and bleed the air out. I'm going to lift the bleed valve. Don't get aggressive with this, okay? Just open it up nicely. There's no need to grab it and rip it. Just open it. I'm going to take the unit, and I'm just going to tilt it forward. There's about, 3 fingers underneath there? I'm just going to tilt it forward, and I'm going to tilt it over like that a little. Now that's exaggerated, but if you can see here, you see that's where the air is. That's what we're trying to get rid of. So instead of doing it flat, why not tilt it forward and over a little bit and bring that air underneath the bleed valve that we're going to be doing. At this point, I'm very calmly just going to take and squeeze the bag, and you're going to see air starting to come out of this bleed valve cap. You can hear it. It sounds like Darth Vader. Luke, I am your father. As you're squeezing it, you can all visually see that the air bubble up top here, that's where I want you to look when you're doing this. Don't look here, but you can see it, but when you start to squeeze it and the air comes out, you visibly see that air bubble getting smaller. And then you're still squeezing. I just put it down very gently, and I'm going to exaggerate it so you can see it, but see, this is coming out of there. I just stop it while I'm still squeezing it, and all I do is gently just put that down. Okay, and that's the hardest part, guys, okay? See how calm that is? It's just nice and easy. You've had a coffee, you're just doing it. I then take the machine, I turn it upside down to prime, and I pull it for about 5 to 10 seconds. Forward to spray, and give it a little shot. And now, remember the fan pattern? If I want to change that, when you're using a Graco, and the dwell time, Doug, I believe on your disinfectant is 10 minutes? The dwell time? Okay. So you're going to be between around 5, 4.5 in there. I want to let you know when you use a Graco, and we can just do it right here actually, is that you only have to pass it once, okay? It's like, that's it, that's done. Not just, that's it, as fast as you can go. Imagine that this paper towel is like a doorknob. That's it, okay? And that's the machine. Let's do it again. I'm standing in water here. The only thing I need is live snakes around here. That'd be good. What I've done, I'm just going to put a little bit more, is I've taken the liner and I put it in the frame. Then I'm going to fill it full of disinfectant to the liner just above the line, because that's just getting rid of the air, whatever your comfort zone is. I'm going to be aware of foam, okay? I'm going to be aware of foam of what's going on. Don't want any foam. I'm going to take the lid, put the lid on by grabbing the frame, and I'm going to turn it down until it's tight. And I'm just going to give it a snug. I'm going to get ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the prime spray valve is down. I'm going to start at the top. Make sure my tip guard is tight. Make sure my spray pattern tip is moving forward. Come along the back, make sure I'm at around 5. Make sure my battery's in. Make sure my filter's in. Okay, remember, I'm just going to be relaxing here, right? Just going to drop that in. This is when we all just slow down. We're just going to drop it in. Put an 1/8 of a turn towards myself. I'm going to lift the lid. I'm just going to take it and I'm going to tilt it forward. I'm just over a little bit because I want to put the air underneath the valve. And then I'm gently just going to squeeze it, okay? I'm going to watch that air bubble collapse to nothing at the top of the cup because it's an airless system. We're just getting rid of the air. When it stops sounding like Darth Vader, it's going to start coming up the channel. Still keep squeezing it because the viscosity of disinfectant, if I let go of that, it'll go down. So again, I'm going to drop it down gently. I'm going to put it over. I'm just going to lift it up. And put it up and over. I don't have to lift it. It's just like, I could be sitting down here, but you don't have to hold it up here. Just there. Forward and over. Just a nice little squeeze, okay? Watch that air bubble collapse from the lid. When it stops sounding like Darth Vader, it's coming up the channel. Still holding it. I just put it down. At that point, I'm going to turn it upside down. And I'm going to pull the trigger for 5 to 10 seconds. Then I'm going to put forward a spray. It goes. And that's it. When you're using it, this bag is going to collapse, okay? Also, when the bag collapses, you can put your hand underneath it and you can squeeze it up. Like, don't be like in the Seinfeld episode when they're driving in the car, when they're going along and they just take it right to empty and we go, we made it. I mean, when it's almost empty it. And what you're going to do is I'm going to show you how we can have some other ones pre-staged, because I think Doug is ordering some cups for you. We finished spraying for the day now, but there's one important thing I want to tell you. During the day, when you prime this machine, okay, if you have it sit for 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to have to reprime it again. But it's not a big deal. Oh, it's been sitting there because this is plastic on silicone fittings, okay? Over time, it's under pressure, air will come in slowly. And we got that from the Mall of America. Mall of America uses all their equipment, and they were on the rides, they were priming them, and they were just leaving them, and they had 3 or 4. So if it sits for 15, 20 minutes, just pick up the lid, up and over, get rid of that air, turn it upside down. And I'm ready to go. Okay. As a second guess to get going, I'm going to give you a little hack here. If you want to be really careful, once you prime it for the first time, meaning I go, that we just lost the filter, that's okay. Get rid of the air. Turn it upside down. You can even do this while you put it back. You can even just have it up on an angle and just make sure that it's, just do it again quickly. And then go. It's up to you. Wouldn't hurt. It just gets you into that, noticing air. You can always tell how much air is in the unit if you turn it over if there's any air there. Now, what happened there is the filter got taken off because it just hit the side of here. It happens sometimes. Don't freak out. You can still spray with it in there until you go get it out. Okay? The extension that comes with it, I recommend not using it. When we first came out with this, we gave people the option of putting this on. But what it is it moves. If it's on here like this, you have to take off the tip guard and put this on. And just to tell you, the tip guard on the top of the extension is metal. The tip guard on the unit is plastic. The metal one cannot go on here. Sometimes these may get separated and say, hey, we can just put this one on here. You can't. It's got to be polymer plastic to polymer pump. This does not go on there. Also, if you put this on, again, we put this in as a service, maybe people would want it, but we're finding that it just, if you want to put your hand up, like, you got to be so high from the surface. You know what I mean? So, my professional recommendation would be do not engage the extension unless you want. And remember, the metal tip guard cannot go on the top here, okay? Metal cannot go on plastic, plastic to plastic, or actually polymer resin is what it is. Now, let's just, if this does happen, and it's real world, what happened here, there's nothing, the filter happened to come off. So I pumped it through. You just take it and put it on. To mitigate that, when you're pulling the unit out, try to just pull it straight up and down. Like for 6 or 7 times I was kind of pulling. I've done a lot of on and offs, what would be real world, right? So just, if you can just put it down, 1/8 of a turn when you're done with it, just do it and just pull it straight up. Because if you keep pulling it back like this, it'll eventually come up. But don't worry, as you see it, it's not an Achilles heel, it's not a problem. Doug, have I missed anything? Let's talk about cleanup now, I guess. Do you feel comfortable with what I've done here and repeating it?
Oh, you didn't mention the tips, but...
Well, it's okay, I was gonna come around to that. That's a good point, thank you. On the tips, which fit in the tip guard, remember the shoulders? You get 3 of them. There's a 619, a 515, and a 313. On the tips, the first number is the width of the spray pattern. So in a 313, the pattern of the width of the spray is 6 inches. On the 515, if you double that first number, that's a 10-inch fan. On the 619, that's a 12-inch fan. The second 2 numbers delineate the orifice size of the opening of the tip. So you have a 313, which is small. That would be your fine spray with a controlled pattern of 6 inches. The 515, which it comes loaded with, is kind of the everyday sprayer tip. You don't need to change that. The 15,000 orifice is in the middle between 13 and 19. And then the 619 is if you just want to go. You don't really want to use the 619. Just use the 515, the one that comes with it, and that's just going to be good. If you lose one of the other ones, you've got another 2 to put in, right? It's just going to be subtle nuances. But the idea is, the bigger the second number, or the bigger the opening, whether it's a 13 thousandths of an inch, 15 thousandths of an inch, or 19 thousandths of an inch, the tighter the hole, the finer the spray. That's how we get fine, medium, and coarse from the 3 tips. And to put that tip back in, I'm just going to locate the two shoulders on the outside. I'm just going to locate where they're squared off, and it's just going to go in like that. Forward and back. I'm going to show you something now, the final little secret, but I'm just going to go through the whole process again because it's my final time I'm going to be doing this. It's real world. I'm coming to work. Battery's charged. I'm pouring that up to the line and a little bit more because you know what, I just don't want to have too much air in there. Take the lid and put it on. It's funny. You know, there's the old adage about, okay, don't do it, the magician doesn't do the trick, 15 times. This is okay. It's not just, I'm laughing because I should be perfect. Tight, snug, down to prime, 5, tip going forward. Just gonna drop it in there. Prime spray valve to lead valve. Just gonna put it over, pull it 1/8 of a turn. I'm gonna lift it up. I'm just gonna put it up and over. And I'm gonna squeeze that bag until the air comes out. I'm gonna watch it get going. It comes up, still holding the bag. I'm just gonna put it down. Make sure I'm on 5. I'm gonna pull it upside down and go priming. I'm gonna put it down to forward to spray. Okay, we're ready to go. If I take this tip and I reverse it, meaning I bring it 180 degrees around, so the arrow's pointing at me and the fan of the arrow, or the feathers are pointing out, I get a serious directional sprayer. And this is for getting in between like 2 filing cabinets that are beside each other where there's a small narrow opening. Okay, you see that? It's like a, what are they, Nerf guns, or like it's like a serious water pistol is what it is. Okay, so you've got a tight direction if you reverse it, and you go back to spray. Okay. That's it for the HP20. Now we finished for the day. All I want you to do is take the disinfectant that's left, pour it back to where it's supposed to go, fill the cup full of water, okay? Like we started. Put it over, okay? Take it, just turn it upside down for a flush, okay? Or you can still prime it, but we're just rinsing here, okay? We're not spraying with it. It's the end of the day. So I can just turn it upside down because I'm putting the air up top. Put it to prime. Forward to spray. And that's it. You put it away and dump it out. All we did is rinse there, guys. So what's different at the end of the day is I just saved the step of bleeding the valve because I'm not going to go spray with it. I'm done spraying. I'm just going to rinse it. So if you ever just want to rinse the machine, you just have to turn it upside down. Okay, give you a little break in the action. What I am going to show you now is because I think Doug has ordered you some cups. You're getting some extra lids anyway, which I threw in, but the wear point in the cup is the top of the liner and this silicone gasket here. That's why we keep it supple with a little bit of Vaseline. Not too much, just a little bit. Probably the amount you want on there is kind of like what you have on your lips with Lipsil or something you put on there, just to keep it lubricated. It doesn't have to be chunky bits, okay? But what Doug is going to order you, he's going to order you a separate cup and frame. Okay? So we're just going to put this water back in here. And I'm going to go through. So at the beginning of your day, you can stage 2 cups. You can take the liner, drop it in, take the disinfectant that's ready to go. This is the extra cup, or it could be the first cup. Fill it to where you want it to be, just a little over the line to get rid of most of the air. I'm going to take the lid, put it on. I'm going to tighten it up. I'm going to tighten it, and I'm going to make it snug. And then I'm going to take the black stopper. Just gonna put it in and turn it an eighth of a turn, okay? And that's now ready to go. So instead of having to go back and fill up the cup, when this one is done, the original one, you can just take this off and just plug it in and go. So it's a plug and play with a preload. Anything else? Seems okay?
I think we've covered that one.
Okay. I'll pull a rabbit out of my hat. Okay, now we're going to talk about the HP 65 hopper sprayer. And we're going to do the out-of-the-box experience. Box is here, so what I do is I've got the main unit. The main unit is right here. It comes with the hopper attached and the pump attached, but we have to attach the hose. And that's the other part. The hose comes with the gun attached, okay? And what we've done is we've given you a whip hose. I'm just getting rid of the ties around here. So you've got a 50-foot hose, okay? I want you to know that the hose is, it's going to be a hose. You can't get around what the hose is. But I also want to let you know that you see how tightly that is? This is about as tight as wide I am. No, I'm just kidding. It's got to lose its memory, okay? It's been born into a roll this tight. And as you use it, you're going to have to, do one of these and undo it. And then when it gets used, it gets loose. It gets looser is what I'm trying to say, and easier to go. We put a whip hose on the end. And what the whip hose does, if we had this 1/4-inch hose attached to here, you can do it, a lot of other people do it. But we wanted to give you the experience of having almost like a floating gun, okay? Like a floating, should I be over a little bit here? Should have like a floating gun, okay? Because this gun weighs 1.25 pounds. The HP 20 weighs 14 pounds. Little difference. But remember, the HP 20 has got balance points, okay? It's got the same kind of tip guard on here, but we'll talk about that in a second. So you're going to have the unit out of the box with the hopper attached. You're going to have the hose with the gun attached to the whip hose. You're also going to get a lid which fits on top of the hopper. You can use that if you'd like. You don't have to use it. The thing about the lid is that it's great, it keeps stuff out, but at the same time you don't know, how much material you've got. But as you get used to this and the HP 65 becomes your friend, you'll understand that after 2 classrooms in a hallway, I got to reload. But it's up to you. My first part was saying don't use the lid till you understand how much material you're using. Or if the material is over just sitting there and you've got it, just put the lid on and it just is ready to go. But it's up to your discretion what you want to do. You're also going to get a wand with this, okay? But if you are going to use a wand, I would use it with the HP 65 versus the handheld. But it's up to you again. But you'll notice that here on the gun of the HP 65, it's a metal frame and this is a metal tip guard. This metal tip guard can go on here. So if you lose this one, you still got this one, okay? Where the other one, remember, the handheld, it's a black polymer plastic and it's different than this. This cannot go on here. Now I'm telling you different, saying that on the HP 65, when it's metal to metal, this can transpose over to here if you'd like. But again, it's at your personal choice if you'd like to use this. You're also going to get 3 tips. You're going to get the same 3 tips as you got in the other ones, fine, medium, and coarse. Let's go with the 515. It's a good deal. They'll come in a little bag like this, okay? They'll come in a little bag, ready to go. You're also going to get a screen. Now, I'm just going to tell you a little hack here. You're going to say, well, why didn't you do that at the factory? Well, I'm just going to tell you that we didn't do it, but it's a little bit of a thing. This screen just drops in to the hopper. Okay, there's a hole at the bottom of the hopper, trust me. as you can see that, down at the bottom. Great. I'll let this one go. See? If I dump out the disinfectant at the end of the day, the screen's coming with it. So what I'd like you to do is if you just get 4 little pieces of duct tape and just put it over the, like not over the screen to impede, I should be careful, but just on the corner so it's not touching into the screen. We're just on either side. It just needs to be anchored a little bit, or you can pick it up each time it comes out. I'm just telling you that up front. And that's it. There's no more. All right, let's talk about what we'll need to get it going, and let's get this guy going. You're going to need a crescent wrench. That's all you're going to need. Underneath the black hopper, there's this collar right here. You see where my hand is? Can you see this collar moving right here? What you want to do is you want to undo that, okay? Then on this side, there's the prime spray valve. This just lifts off, okay? That's it. Just lifts off, and then the hopper just comes off like that. It pretty much lines up. You're going to have to jiggle it a little bit, but it pretty much lines up. So to put the hose on, you've got to take the hopper off. You'll notice that on the rig, on the intake, there's a red cap right here where my finger is. And then also you'll notice on the end of the hose, there's a red cap. Red cap to red cap, okay? That's how it goes. So what I want you to do is I want you to unscrew this red cap. It just comes off. And then this red cap on the hose just comes off like that. All I want you to do is take the hose and put it on there and just feed it on. Make sure you're not cross-threading it. My hands have got Vaseline on them. There we go. And just hand tight. My hands are too slippery. I'm just going to take the wrench now and I'm just going to slowly tighten that on, okay? Remember I talked about repriming the HP20 after it's been sitting for 15 to 20 minutes? That's because the seal is plastic on silicone and it has a tendency maybe to move a little bit. We just want to make sure we're not putting any air. When I start doing pressure fittings like this and this, if we had those kind of fittings over there, then, you know, which you couldn't, that's why you have to reprime. With this one, you're going to be fine. So I'm starting to get a little bit tight now. Make sure you go all the way. Okay, I'm getting tight now. What I'm going to do is when it's snug, hang on, I don't have my glasses on. When it's snug, okay, it's snug now, I'm just going to give it that little kiss, okay? That little snug and then, that's it. I don't want to over-tighten things. I've now attached the hose. At this point, I'm going to take the hopper with the fitting there, and I'm going to turn it back towards myself. And you know, after a while you'll get good at it, but you just put this on here. You may just want to go underneath there and just move it around a little bit and make sure it goes on properly. And you want to make sure that it's tight, okay? Tight, tight, hand tight. That's on there. Okay. We've now attached the hose onto the HP65. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the prime spray return, and there's a groove right here, the groove. This just comes in and it just slides down there. This is the prime spray return. Okay. Let's go over the parts of the machine. Start at the top, like we did with the HP20. We got the hopper. I want you to keep it clean, okay? I'm also going to put in the strainer, but if you put the strainer in once with a little bit of tape, you'll be okay. I want you to be aware when you're pouring and mixing disinfectant, whether it's for the HP20 or for it's the HP65. In a lot of custodial rooms and places where there's, sinks, etc., there's a lot of sand, okay? It's one thing I've noticed. And sprayers just don't like sand. So what I'm asking you to do is that the containers that you mix disinfectant in and the containers that you use for disinfectant, make sure they're clean. Make sure they're brand new clean, okay? It's very important for the longevity of everything. Don't grab the 20-liter pail with the crap in the corner, because that little bit of sand, if it goes in there, whether it's my equipment or anybody else's equipment, it's going to pooch it. There's tolerances to it. But at the same point, just keep clean and you'll be fine. This is the hopper. At the front, we've also got the on-off switch here. See? On-off. Got the cord, okay? Right here, we come along the front, is the prime spray valve. Remember the prime spray valve over on the HP20? It was this guy here. Remember? Down to prime, forward to spray. Down to prime, forward to spray. On the HP65, it's a little bit different. It's down to prime, up to spray. Down to prime, up to spray. You'll get that fairly quickly. On the other side is the pressure control. The pressure control has this gray bar, and on the top there's a negative, and then as I turn it this way there's a positive, as you can see. This pump kicks in about near the top, but this is the pressure control. As on the HP20 cordless, this was your pressure control. Okay? I'm now going to plug the rig in. Just got a plug here. Hope I don't blow the panel and we lose everybody. Everything was good until he plugged in. There we go. Okay, I'm live. If I turn this on without fluid, it's not a good thing, much like the HP20 cordless. You should never turn a pump on, whether it's my equipment or anybody else's equipment, a pump that pumps fluid without fluid ready to go through it. It's like driving your car without any coolant in it, okay? It's the same kind of idea. We're not cooling here, but we've still got a pump. At this point, I'm going to take some disinfectant, because there's no one-time starting up with this. You don't need to seat the pump. This is right, let's go. I'm going to take the disinfectant and I'm going to pour it into the hopper. The hopper takes 1.5 gallons of material. You don't want to go right to the top, but you can go near the top. When you're doing it for the first time, make sure the hopper is pretty full. Because what we have to do is when we're in the prime mode, and then we go to the spray mode, we have to fill the 1/4-inch hose. And that's going to take material. So don't be, and then after that, there's always going to be material in the hose, so the hose will always be filled. Okay. What I'm going to start is I'm going to make sure the machine is off. I'm going to be priming, so I want to make sure that the prime spray valve is coming forward, okay? It's priming. Up to spray, down to prime. Coming forward is priming. If you're going to make a note, or if you're making notes today, that is one, because there isn't a sticker here, okay? And it's different than this because it was down to prime, forward to spray. This is like down to prime, forward to spray. If you can think about it in those terms, make a note saying on the HP65, down is spray, is the prime, up is spray. Before you start the rig, make sure the pressure control is down. Make sure it's off. We don't want to have any pressure going through it. Just we don't want to start it up and go woo. Let's make sure the pressure's down. If you do it the other way, it's not a problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the machine on, and when it's in the prime mode, because we're not in the prime mode, I'm going to put it down to prime. I'm in the prime mode. I'm going to turn the machine on. And what's going to happen is I'm going to slowly turn it up till the pump kicks on. And you have to go about 3/4 for the pump to kick on. And what's happening is we're going to be bringing material into the pump, and it's going to recirculate out through this hose. So when you see material coming out of this hose, you know that it's primed because there's no air in it. Here we go. Now I'm going to take that and just turn that down. Okay. I know that it's primed. At this point, I'm going to turn it to spray. And what's going to happen the first time that you do, you're going to see this hose dance around and go because it's loading. Here you're not going to see that because it's already loaded. But before we do that, let's just make sure that remember to the left, that this is on tight. And I can turn the housing to the left too, because that'll allow me to move it either way. With the metal, you may have to just give that a little bit of a kiss with a crescent wrench to lock it in, because the plastic is worked, but it's still hand tight. Make sure that's tight. Now, I'm going to turn it to spray, and I'm going to turn the pump back up. I've now redirected the flow of the material from priming coming out of the prime spray return. By changing the prime spray valve to the up position, I'm now redirecting the flow of the material into the hose to the gun. You saw things move around a little bit there. I'm going to pick up the gun. On the gun, there's a safety too. Behind the trigger, there's a little dial, a little butterfly that just turns like this. You just pull it out and turn it. And that stops, so many screens here, I feel like that stops the handle from hitting it, okay? To release it, you just take your index finger and your thumb, push it forward, and it pops down, and then I can pull it. Now, I should be able to pull the trigger, and I'm ready to go. It's so nice. You give it a little more jam. You get a little dripping, you can give it a little more jam. I got to tighten that up with the... Hold on, that's why now there it is. I'm going to turn it to the left now. That's the HP65. You've still got the capability to put it in reverse. You've got that. Let's see this. Now we sprayed for the end of the day. It's time to put it away. Or let's say it's lunchtime and you just want to shut it down. Anytime you want to turn the prime spray valve in a bigger rig like this, you want to make sure that you relieve the pressure first, because if I turn the prime spray valve while it's under load, all I'm doing is redirecting that material back through here. Okay? So all I do is I'll take it, I'm done, or I'm done for the day, or I'm done for lunch. I just want to take it and go back. I turn the pressure right down because it won't build. You don't want to do that. Put it to reverse and just depressurize. Now I'll turn the prime spray valve to prime. Okay, sorry about that, I kind of turned that a little too quickly. Okay, you won't be spinning it back and forth when you're doing it. You'll be having it on the cart or on a table or wherever you're doing it. So we're gonna do that one more time. I take the material, put it into the bucket. I've got the hose attached. The machine is on. I've got to prime first. So I'm gonna make sure the prime spray valve is in the prime position. I'm then gonna take the pressure control, I'm gonna turn it up. Okay? I'm gonna make sure that it's coming out of there. I'm gonna turn it down. I'm now going to put the prime spray valve up, and I'm going to turn up the pressure, and it'll stop when it's at the pressure where you want it to be at. And then I'm just going to go there we go. It's the end of the day. I'm going to turn the pressure down to 0. I'm going to take the gun. I'm going to put it to reverse the clean because you can do it this way, but it's too much of a fan. So just a little thing, put it to reverse the clean, just against the side of the bucket. Release the pressure. Now I'll turn the prime spray valve to prime. It's the end of the day. You take the disinfectant and you pour it into the container, okay, till it's empty. Then I take water. We have to flush it as well. Fill it up with water and just go through the process very quickly. Down to prime, take the control, turn it up. Prime spray valve up. Take the machine and then etc. When it's all done, dump out the water. It's important just to rinse the machines. I can't really tell you, although you think that it's clean, disinfectant has got a lot of stuff in it. And over time, in the check valves underneath here, they may become a little bit gummy, okay? I'm now just gonna take the water out of the machine. There's my strainer. I'm going to show you, I'm going to take off the hopper. And if you're having problems getting it primed, which you shouldn't, but if you are, right here, there's what's called a ball banger. And a ball banger is this little button right here. And what it does is there's a steel ball on a carbide seat, and that ball moves up and down to open and close the valves. If you don't rinse it, sometimes the disinfectant will be around that ball and it'll harden a little bit, or it'll get gummy and the ball won't move. So it's a good time before you start everything, just give that little ball banger just a little push down, okay? You hardly even know it's moving. All it's doing is the ball there, it's just got a little pin that's just giving it a little just nudge. It's a nudger actually, just to nudge it off. Put the hopper back on, put it on, look underneath a little bit, line up the threads, make sure it's tight. Take the prime spray valve, put it in, and then you can take the lid if you'd like for the night, and then do it. When you have the hose extended, okay, you're going to take it, you're going to walk down a hallway. It's best to do it in a hallway. You've got it 50 feet out. When you wind up the hose or get the hose, into its loop, you'll want to go in a loop about this big. and it just lays over the top of this, okay? It just goes on top of that, so you can pick the rig up and the hoses are down. Try to have the gun handle up here, because they don't really like to smash the ground just ahead of time. But depending on how you're going to be using them, and remember just to tape in that little filter. Have I missed anything, Doug?
I can't think of it.
Okay. Any questions on anything? Again, what I've done is basically emulated exactly what you're going to be seeing on the video series, but Doug and I just wanted to show you live and in person. I'm here as a resource. Doug is going to use me. There's extra parts and material on the ground for the equipments, pumps, etc. All I'm trying to say, guys, is just don't be afraid to use the equipment. It's professional equipment. If something happens, we're going to look after you, okay? Just remember that they're pumps and they don't like to be dry stroked. Remember on the HP20 cordless, if it's not in service, just put the battery, unclip it, just drop it in there. Nothing can happen. Things will happen and situations will happen, but I want you to know that myself and my commitment to the company, to Graco, and to Frontier School Division, I'm not running for office here, but I'm just letting you know that this is professional equipment, okay? This isn't DIY, pour and go. There's a certain chain of events that has to happen to make it work, but I understand that you may be hesitant in some cases. I can't see your faces, I just see all the names that are there. But again, don't be afraid to jump in and do it. Remember that with the HP20, okay, it's really calm. It's just a calm process. Remember, we take the cup, it's full of material, we line it up, prime spray valve down, put it on, over, eighth of a turn, just calmly, you know what I mean? Up, shh, while I'm still holding it, shut it down, upside down to prime, let's go spray. Okay, it's not tense and moving, it's like a camera. At this point, I'd like to open up to any questions.